Hey guys, if you are new here, my name is Josh and this is After Credits. On this channel, I do all sorts of things, movie and TV show related, reviews, rankings, reactions, podcasts, video essays, all sorts of stuff. So if you want to see more of that, then definitely go down below and subscribe. Today, I am joined by David from the channel Basically StarWars to review The Empire Strikes Back, which is a lot of people's favorite Star Wars film. Not mine personally, but it is for a lot of people.
What's up guys, my name is David, I run the channel Basically StarWars, and I am so happy to be here on After Credits talking about the best Star Wars movie ever made, The Empire Strikes Back.
If you have not already checked out his channel, then please go and do so because he has some really fantastic content. The link to his channel is in the description if you haven't checked it out. So Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. This is obviously, the sequel to A New Hope, and I, for one, prefer A New Hope. I would say I definitely prefer A New Hope, but I still really like this film, and it's one that, because when I first watched the original trilogy, I watched all three films in one day, and although I didn't prefer it to the first one, it's not like there was a dip in quality. It's probably on par with the first one, and so I think it did what a sequel should do, where it expanded the world. It did actually a lot of world building for Star Wars, and it brought you back to this world that you love, the characters that you love again, and gave you another adventure with them that didn't make you lose faith in the franchise or hate them anymore, and actually left you wanting more by the end of it.
Talking about Empire is honestly like talking about movies such as Psycho, 2001: A Space Odyssey, or even newer movies like Parasite. They're amazing, pretty much everybody agrees they're amazing, and I'm just a kid talking about this masterpiece in a spare room in my house. That being said, just because this film is very praised does not mean I won't take any opportunity to gush about this masterpiece. The Empire Strikes Back made Star Wars Star Wars. While A New Hope was revolutionary and a perfect introduction to the franchise, The Empire Strikes Back allowed Star Wars to become a franchise. A New Hope is this beautiful contained film, but Empire allowed Star Wars to become the behemoth it is today. This movie is Star Wars. Something I really like about this movie, along with literally everything else, is that everything feels more spread out. One of the only flaws with A New Hope is that it's very formulaic. When you boil that movie down, it is a prince rescues the princess story. In Empire, everything is split up. Han is with Leia and their mission is basically survival, and Luke is training with Yoda. Splitting up the gang not only spices things up more compared to A New Hope, but it also allows more attention to be focused on each character, which leads to great development.
Weirdly, my favorite part of this film is actually when they're with Lando on his, I don't know what it is, a space station, a spaceport, wherever it is. I just like the relationship between Lando and Han. You find out a bit more, just a slight bit more about Han's backstory, how he won the Millennium Falcon from Lando, and you learn that, there are more people who aren't so loyal all the time. He betrays them, basically, handing them over to Vader, and, it lets you know that even if you know someone, you might still be a bad guy. Because in the first film, you learn that Han isn't exactly a saint, and then you can see, because he's known people like this from his past, why he isn't so trusting and why he isn't so trustworthy. Also, another relationship Han has in this film is with Leia, and you see a lot more development of that. Now, going into this film, I didn't know that Luke and Leia were brother and sister just because I'd heard that, about Star Wars. So I knew that, Leia was gonna pick Han over Luke, and when Leia and Luke had their kiss, I was a bit, okay, just a kiss. Calm down.
And the character development in this film is on point. Leia becomes a much more fleshed out and grounded character. In A New Hope, Princess Leia is a very fitting title for her because she is the princess of the story. But in this film, she is a character that is dealing with personal conflicts and personal struggles and emotions. Empire is the movie that made her just Leia in my mind. No other names before or after. Han also matures in this movie because of Leia. And this should go without saying, but their relationship is one of the best ever put to film. One of my favorite lines from this movie, and one of the more underrated in their relationship, is,
"Hey, your worship, I'm only trying to help."
Would you please stop calling me that?
Sure, Leia.
You make it so difficult sometimes.
I do, I really do.
But then you also get a really iconic line, when Princess Leia says, "I love you," and then Han says, "I know." I thought that was really good.
Speaking of lines, good God, does this film have some of the greatest lines in cinematic history. However, at the end of the day, dialogue is just one of the many tools to create a screenplay and a film. It's so much more than iconic and quippy lines. But damn, is this movie good at that too. Along with the great lines in this movie, there are also some fantastic monologues. One of my favorite is Yoda's speech on the light and the dark side.
Vader gives an order, I can't remember exactly what it is, to Lando, and as he walks off, you see Lando just do this, but it's so subtle that I only picked up on it on recent rewatch, and it's actually, because Vader was force choking him, probably.
Also, let's just take a moment to appreciate Yoda. This character is iconic. He is a staple of modern day pop culture. More people know about him than don't. Just think about that. Just actually really think about that. This little green Muppet who talks funny is an icon. We take creative characters for granted nowadays because we're just so used to them, we can't imagine a world without a Yoda. But characters like this and movies like this are what make film something truly special.
Now let me say this, the Dagobah parts with Luke and Yoda are really important and pivotal to Luke's arc and the film and just the overall story of Star Wars. But it kind of drags a bit. The very first time I watched it, I was on board because I didn't know that was going to happen and it was necessary for me to see it. But on rewatches, because I know it's coming, when I do watch it, it does feel like it drags a bit and it's just not the most interesting scene to me. I don't know why. Also, Yoda this time around is a bit annoying. I think it was his voice maybe. And I realized he's kind of like a Muppet version of Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid. That's weird. Now obviously one of the biggest parts of this film is the twist, which is I am your father, which, you know, that's been referenced so many times in other places that I knew about it. Take Toy Story 2, for instance. They reference that in that film.
I'll never give in. You killed my father.
No, Buzz. I am your father.
And so, going into it, it wasn't really much of a twist because I knew it was coming, but it's still a pretty interesting and pivotal moment, and for, you know, for people seeing it at the time, it must have been this really big shock.
Dagobah is one of my favorite planets because it's very contained. In a weird way, you can tell that this is a set. It all feels a little too small, but I kind of love it about that. Something about it just feels very cozy. On Dagobah, we get one of the best scenes in Star Wars that's not really talked about enough, and that's the cave scene. It's a fairly quick yet powerful scene with some of the best visual imagery in Star Wars. For a first-time watcher that hopefully doesn't know about spoilers, this is captivating and disturbing stuff. Why is this happening? Why is Luke's face in Vader's helmet? What was Vader doing there? It's scenes like this in Star Wars that we really take for granted nowadays.
Now, I do love Star Wars, but Marvel is definitely my favorite franchise, and I was so into Captain America Civil War at the time I watched Empire that when they were on Hoth, I was just saying in my mind, hey, you guys ever seen that really old movie, The Empire Strikes Back? You know when they're on the snow planet with the walking thingies? And just, there are so many references, especially that one, that I now get after watching Empire, just because I heard them so many times and I knew they were Star Wars references, but watching this film actually helped me understand them. This film actually introduces a lot of main characters like Lando, Yoda, Boba Fett, and the Emperor, which I think is really cool. That it managed to world build and introduce all of these characters and you feel like they've been there from the start. Theatrically, this was their first appearance. Now, Boba Fett. He is definitely one of my favorite Star Wars characters because he is just so cool. He's got cool armor, he's got a cool presence. He probably has about 4 lines in the entire trilogy, but I still really love his character. I actually got to meet Jeremy Bulloch, who was the actor who played him in the original trilogy. And that was pretty cool, and it was really sad to, hear he passed. And it's funny that a character who barely said much and was barely in these films is one of the coolest characters that I like the most. And obviously the first original Disney Plus Star Wars TV show was The Mandalorian, which, comes from Boba Fett effectively, so it's really cool to see the impact that character has had, even though he doesn't do much.
Going ahead a little bit to Cloud City, Darth Vader's plan is really fun to watch and brought to life so well. From Vader's introduction on Cloud City to seeing the trap unravel and just come to life, to carbon freezing, and the countless other iconic images and lines that happen within this 15 minutes of film alone. When we get to cinema, trademark. Luke versus Vader is probably my favorite sequence of all time. The way it's shot and the colors and the ambiance is so beautiful and immersive, and then we get it.
No. I am your father.
Trying to come up with things to say about this reveal and how it's so effective and it's just so epic, it's kind of like trying to describe why the sky is blue. It just is, and we all know. Something that is not talked about enough, and when it is talked about, I don't feel like it's done justice to, and that's Luke's jump. Some people make a joke out of the scene like, oh, look at him, he jumped and he survived, plot convenience, and then some people who take it more seriously are saying, oh, look at that, he jumped instead of joining his father, he was willing to die. My interpretation of this scene, due to my father, who is a massive Star Wars fan, and his interpretation of the scene as well, is that this is the moment where Luke becomes a Jedi. He is willing to trust this power that he has not fully mastered yet, rather than his father or join the dark side. The Jedi and the Force are a religion, and a big part of religion is faith, and this is the moment where he truly puts his faith in this power in a moment where he needs it the most, and that is the moment where, in my opinion, where he becomes a Jedi.
Another thing we see, or shall I say hear in this film for the first time, is the Imperial March, which is just honestly one of the best pieces of music in Star Wars. It has a really menacing, evil tone. I mean, I'm more intimidated by the Imperial March than I am by Darth Vader. I'm serious. That music is just so effective and works really well. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and try and explain why, you know, the score for Star Wars is amazing, because you probably all already agree with me. And I really like how it sets up for Return of the Jedi, because it really has a bittersweet ending, this film.
The final 10 minutes of this movie are very somber, as they should be. It is the perfect way and tone to end this roller coaster of a film on. You have Luke and Leia looking out into the galaxy, the music swells up, the credits roll. Every single time I stand up and applaud, every single time, guaranteed. In summary, The Empire Strikes Back is a masterpiece by itself, but also responsible for making Star Wars what it is today. This is an easy 10 out of 10 for me, or on my scale, it is absolutely, positively, as amazing as Toby.
Overall, I'm gonna have to give this film a 9 out of 10. Now, I know a lot of people are probably going, what? You just praised it to death, plus it's Empire, why aren't you giving it a 10? There are a couple of issues I have with it, but come on, I mean, 9 out of 10, that's still a really good score. Plus, it's more like 95 rather than a 90%, so it's really close to a 10.
Josh, once again, thank you so much for having me on your channel where I can just gush about this movie I love so much. I probably talk too much, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you want to check out my channel, it'll probably be linked in the description. It's basically Star Wars, where I talk about, of course, Star Wars and movies in general. If that sounds interesting, come over and check it out.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below in the comments 2 things: what you thought of this film and whether you prefer A New Hope or The Empire Strikes Back. Thank you so much to David for joining me today. It was a blast to have you on. Guys, I'm going to be doing Star Wars reviews monthly, and they're all going to be collaborations, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Josh. This is After Credits, a place to review, rank, and react to movies with you.
Thank you guys for watching. May the Force be with you.